So I mean, if you it's like if you want to argue with me over false advertising because my homemade website has an in-stock default setting, it's just kind of ridiculous. But so this is the kind of stuff you deal with when you're your own boss. But thank you guys for your support. Enjoy and get the book there. Now, I've been meaning to do this. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but because there's not a whole lot to say, but there was a series of movies from the late 70s, early 80s, I guess 1980 up into the 90s, with the trend of the TRANZ killer. And everybody remembers, of course, Silence of the Lambs, Clarice, Fava Beans, all this kind of stuff. We all know about that. Although it's not, of course, Dr. Hannibal, but Buffalo Bill was his name, right? And there's a reason for this, and that's because in some of the cases of the actual serial killers, they have had this odd tendency. Now, when we read the Carl Jung book on archetypes, and we archetypes, and we lectured through that, we saw that Jung had a theory that there is an imbalance in the person's anima and animus that makes them feel like the feminine side is dominant, and then it comes to take over and produces eventually, and even Carl Jung said this, a kind of possession. And so there's a couple places actually that Carl Jung talked about that. Yeah, I removed the recommended reading section because it needs to be all updated and redone. So there is no recommended reading anymore. You can just go to the videos where I talk about what books to read. I mean, beyond that, it's like it's not even necessary to have a gigantic 200 books recommended to read anyway, because nobody's going to read 200 books. Maybe 1 out of 1,000 people will read 50 of them. So there's no point in having 200 recommended books on your website. At most, maybe 5 in a few subjects. That's it. There's no point in having a giant recommended reading section, and it was all jumbling up and looked ugly and messed up the website anyway. So, anyway, so it's not just a matter, I don't think, of having low T in the case of people who have these issues. There's something else going on. I'm not saying Carl Jung is completely wrong about possession, but that's what I want to get to, is that we might actually be overlooking the possibility of the demonic. And I came across a clip today that was interesting. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I don't really think this guy's that funny. I'll show you later. But there's a guy named Joey Tunes, and his comments, in my opinion, are not very funny, but they appeal to a lot of people. But regardless of his comments, he came across this oddball character, and I think you're going to see what I mean when we look at this guy. I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know this person,